What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Remnant 2. So recently I did a full playthrough of the game with the gun Savior. This is the gun rewarded to you after beating the game on hardcore veteran difficulty, and unfortunately I really wasn't that impressed. Largely due to getting every possible boss that doesn't have a weak spot and running through Lawsome for a while where it's kind of a pain to hit those tiny heads. In the end, my conclusion was that Savior is a gun that wants to be a bow, but just doesn't even do it right. That is until I tried this setup right here. Done correctly, we almost never reload it and can actually treat the weapon like it's a bow, with very high crit damage and good regular damage overall. Plus, we're running Alchemist to give some survivability and support in co-op if that's your thing. Here is an extremely fun Savior build and how you can make it yourself. Your prime class will be Hunter. It offers the most buff to range damage, greatly increasing our crit chance in a variety of ways. We'll be running it as our prime so that the skill we use lasts almost an infinite amount of time. As long as you deal consistent weak spot damage, it's going to extend the duration of that mark skill, allowing Savior to crit more often and providing extra sight for as long as possible. Run with Hunter's Mark as it marks all targets and gives you the best possible visual in battle. Your range damage is increased as well as your crit for better damage. Technically, when running bow-like weapons, your best option is Shroud for boss fights, so just keep that in mind. For your subclass, you want Alchemist. The one thing lacking in DPS builds is survivability, and if you don't want to be forced to play perfectly, you're gonna need some. Alchemist provides a nice 25% bump to all damage, as well as granting you a random buff when you use a relic. The buff does last a long time, so it actually comes in handy. The real reason to take this class, however, is for Elixir of Life. This skill grants a vortex of green around the user and grants a bit of healing, helping you survive a hit here and there if you take them. It will also provide you with a buff that lasts 20 seconds. Step back into the vortex and its timer will reset. So play around the vortex and you have about 30 seconds of this. While this is active, taking fatal damage will not actually kill you. Instead, you go down and will revive back up by yourself. This does have a cooldown, so it can't be used to ignore all downs, but essentially you gain one free death, which is awesome. Just a fun way to play, and even better in co-op as it works to revive other players. Armor for this build is fashion first and foremost. We have Night Stalker helm, knotted chest, and knotted boots. No gauntlets this time around, as wearing anything else makes you heavy dodge, and we can't have that. Luckily, the chest piece we have covers our arms anyway, so the look works. You're going to want to run with the Salvaged Heart as your relic. This immediately has 50% better use speed, which is a game changer. After running those other relics, it's so nice to just pop the relic as soon as you press the button. You also heal for 30 health and 300% of gray health. This means you're going to heal fully if more gray health is present. Only issue is when you have no health and no gray health, because the relic doesn't do enough there. Thankfully, this almost never happens due to a concoction we'll be taking, resulting in a very quick relic that heals all of your health. For the fragments, you want the typical DPS setup: weak spot damage, range crit damage, and range crit chance. This lets you pump out the big red numbers more often, and even when you don't hit crit, your regular weak spot damage is still over 2,000 most of the time. Since this is a Savior build, it should come to no surprise that Savior will be our main weapon. This gun gets 6 bullets and needs to charge up to fire. Release at the correct time and you get the best damage, and what seems like extra crit chance, although I can't prove that theory. The gun has really high crit chance and weak spot damage already, making it hit for very large numbers all the time. But unfortunately, like a lot of guns in this game, it has an atrocious reload. And for this gun, it actually kills the pace of battle. It also has a mod that basically does nothing. You get a little bit of fire damage and weak spot shots will kill surrounding enemies, but it's pretty mediocre all things considered. To fix it, you want to run with the Mutator Extender, providing the gun with better reload speed and extra ammo. Instead of 6 bullets, you get 8 and can reload more easily. This can be looped so that you never reload the gun, as using the mod will fully restore all the ammo in the magazine, thus allowing you to shoot until the mod is back and then get a free and not sucky reload. Also, pairing this with our amulet, we gain infinite ammo in our weapon. It is such a better way to play the gun as you can fire over and over without slowing down your pace of combat. As the melee option, I chose Blade of Gold as it looks the best with our armor and stays out of the way of the screen. Equip the Shield Breaker Mutator as that lets you gain shield on melee hits. Doesn't do anything crazy for us, but better defense never hurt anybody. For your sidearm, you want the bolt driver. When running a fusion rifle as your main, it's a good idea to pair it with this weapon, so you can buff both of their fire rates at the same time. Bolt driver is very reliable as it deals high damage and shoots multiple bullets at a time, allowing for more spray and pray type combat that's still effective. Throw on Bore for the mod, as this allows you to attach weak spots to enemies. Shoot the purple pustules and you gain a lot more damage. This also seems to greatly improve Savior at times, because with the mod active, it occasionally bounces in between the Bore for multiple hits. On more mobile enemies, Bore really isn't that easy to hit, but it is pretty darn nice for certain moments. Lastly, attach Supercharger as a mutator and you will have this gun firing ridiculously fast. Extra 30% charge speed with 15% extra crit chance, making it a very solid backup weapon to Savior. For your trinkets, we have a unique setup for both damage and quality of life. Gunfire Security Lanyard automatically reloads the magazine over time. Does not work for single shot weapons. Because Savior has more than one bullet and we already gave it more ammo, this allows you to rarely reload the gun. Simply charging your shots correctly for the highest damage provides enough time to refill your ammo. If you use your mod to restock ammo as well, you're going to have some excellent synergy there, and it will feel much more comfortable with the weapon. Probability Cord increases crit damage by 30%, allowing for those weak spot crits to be massive when they happen. Zania's Malice increases weak spot damage up to 30%, and since Savior works best off of that damage type, it's the best buff we can provide it. Stone of Continuance increases skill duration by 25%. Now this one you can switch out, but I found it to be pretty awesome here. Savior already has high damage, so instead of focusing on that only, why not make our skill last as long as possible? Hunter's Mark already lasts forever, so you pretty much have this the entire boss fight. Then your free revive gets an extra 5 seconds on the buff, and like 2.5 for the Vortex, gaining you more damage for longer and a safe space to fall back on. Really fun in co-op as you feel like a DPS player with decent support for the team. Then we have Archer's Crest to increase the projectile speed and weapon charge time of both your weapons, making Savior a lot more usable, and Bolt Driver becomes an auto rifle almost. Altogether, you have amazing damage and a nice way to fire your guns without everything feeling very clunky. For traits, you want to be able to dodge attacks and support our gray health usage. Long Shot for more effective gun damage and usability. Potency so your concoction will last longer, of which we will need for the build. Untouchable so you can dodge a little easier, especially helpful with a medium roll. Vigor for health, Endurance for stamina, Spirit for mod power back, and Expertise for skill cooldown. Then grab Bloodstream, as this will really help your health regen back up because it will be gray rather than just gone. And finally, Fitness for extra roll distance. Without this, it's just kind of a pain to dodge certain boss moves on no tank builds. As for your concoction, you want Sacred Lake Water, which increases gray health conversion by 50% and gray health regen by 1 per second. This makes it so your health turns gray when taking damage more often than not. Since our relic doesn't work that great without gray health, you need this concoction. With it, you'll never have an issue healing back up and can use the much faster relic that we have on, also making it so you don't even need a relic to have some decent gray health regen. As for how to use the build, you just go in and shoot. Savior is unfortunately just not a good gun without weak spot damage, so keep that in mind if your damage suffers for certain bosses. But for those with a weak spot, you have very, very high damage. Point and click with Savior, trying only to let the bullets fly when it hits the reticle, offering your best possible damage. Use Bolt Driver to support you if you ever happen to run out of bullets, which will rarely happen due to our setup. Activate Hunter's Mark or Shroud as often as possible, and it will last a very long time, if not forever. And then you have your Elixir of Life skill for when things get tricky. Throw it down as often as you can and stay near the green until it disappears for the longest duration. If you're more comfortable in combat, you can only use this to revive teammates or when you know a hard to dodge attack is coming. Getting that free down is super nice when solo and fixes the massive revive times in co-op. Savior is a very fun weapon and honestly a very powerful weapon if you can consistently hit weak spots. It becomes insane for ad clear when you get its mod going, and the thing allows you to almost only use that weapon for an entire run. You have Bore to help hit weak spots and some fun encounters with Alchemist as your subclass. Not an OP build by any means, as mod, spam, and tank are way easier to play with, but this setup works well and helped me enjoy Savior a lot more than I did originally. Give it a try if you're looking for something unique, and I'll catch you next time.